welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. In the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful November the 30th, 2020. Round of the port days. Bonjour. Charlton and Big C Sports will be doing it after Thanksgiving weekend. It's been great. I'll be going solo today. Big C's doing some traveling down south. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Never stop arriving. Also, all over the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be looking at a still picture. Man, I'm doing the pause. I'm doing the solo pause today, Big C. It's a song called the Solo Pause and a dance. I'll teach it to you when we get back on The Universe is All Fair in Love and War. I will always say that I love pausing, but I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. A lot of people going through issues, but make sure you reach out to the Veterans Crisis Hotline, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can definitely get our veterans some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV, On Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the home run king Barry Bonds, as well as the Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays. Our goal is simple. When you reach out to them, tell them Big C sent you. We want to recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to put people back to work, just like McDonald's does it, car dealerships do it, sports teams do it, watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com. Anywhere in the world, just open up your cell phone and you'll see so many mobile apps that we're on, from iHeartRadio Podcast, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify. There's so many apps that I really appreciate. On Spreaker, we're on so many, and I really do appreciate that. I also want to give a very special thanks to Comcast Spotlight, presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. God said, let there be Big C Sports, and I really do appreciate Big C Sports Podcast, but you got to speak into it. If you don't speak into it, Big C, then the apps won't open up. A lot of people speak into it, or you can play it if you're old-fashioned. It's all fair in love and war. My goodness. There's so many things going on that I'm very grateful for. I had a lot to eat over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Had a chance to spend some time with family. Listening to Mom's great words and conversations is all good in the neighborhood, but sometimes I think I ate a little bit too much food, Big C. I got to stop doing that. But I did not eat too many collard greens. The collard greens that I ate were prepared by my sister. She does a fabulous job. My mom, everybody likes the collard greens. I love them. I just don't know how to cook them. If I knew how to cook them, I'd eat more of them. But I'm telling you, when you eat collard greens, you know you've had collard greens, if that makes sense to you. It's all fair in love and war. And when you don't have time for collard greens, you can eat the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger. It's made with exotic meats, and it goes really great with the Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol, and it goes great with the Big C Burger. My goodness, there's so many things to talk about in the world of sports. If we can have sports, I know we have a game tonight that's already underway. The Seattle Seahawks in the NFL, they're at the Philadelphia Eagles, but like the Eagles are playing with one wing. It's all fair and love and war. But I want to start, even in Northern California, the Bay Area, they shut down Santa Clara County for sports. I'll talk about more of that as I get into the world of sports. But I'm telling you, it's time to stay safe and just, buckle down, do whatever you got to do to stay safe. Even in the world of politics, you have where we've had some confirmations. Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, Wisconsin and Arizona certified the election for President-elect Joe Biden to be the 46th president of the United States. But Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell, they're like a pesky mosquito. You ever have a pesky mosquito, Big C? They're so pesky, and they think that they think you like the sting, and they think you like the itch, and they also think that you're going to miss them when they're gone. That's how their narcissism is. Anyone who's ever had to deal with a pesky mosquito, it just does not want to leave, and that's a lot like what POTUS is doing. They tell you you're going to miss them when they're gone. You're trying to get rid of that itch. It's all fair and love and war, and hopefully that itch will be gone by January 20th, 2021, when the new administration is sworn in. But thinking of things that are going on in the world of football, I know the NFL has got to get these games played. But you know what? Santa Clara is a lot of money. Silicon Valley, you have Apple, you have Facebook, a lot of companies down there in the South Bay of San Francisco. And I'll talk about that coming up too. But they shut down football at Levi Stadium. But the NFL, the Broncos' 3 eligible quarterbacks, Drew Lock, Brett Rippon, and Blake Bortles, were each deemed to be high risk for COVID-19. Close contacts said that none of the 3 could be in uniform for Sunday's games, and they were not. And the team announced Sunday night. Denver's statement did not say who the quarterback or who the players came in contact with, but sources told it was Drake Driscoll, and Driscoll tested positive for COVID-19 on Thursday and was moved to the team's reserve COVID-19 list later that day. And the Broncos will not be forfeiting Sunday's game. They actually played that game. We'll talk about that coming up too. But there was also talk that John Elway was seen around Denver doing push-ups. Big C, John Elway, he's won a couple of Super Bowl for the Denver Broncos, and he was getting ready to get out and play. But they didn't shut it down in Denver. Now, ironically, in San Francisco, Northern California, I've lived in Northern California all of my life, in Central and Northern California. But for at least the next 3 weeks, this is for a lot of people that COVID's not real, it's not real, it's just a hoax, it's a Democratic hoax and all that jazz. We're way beyond that. For the next 3 weeks, the 49ers, they're a team without a home. How could you be a billionaire and not have a home, Big Z? Something called COVID-19 showed up. And the 49ers didn't shut it down. Santa Clara County shut it down, the health department. And that affects a lot of teams. The San Jose Sharks in the NHL, the San Jose Earthquakes in the USL Soccer League, San Jose State football and athletics, Stanford football, athletics, Santa Clara football, athletics. That's down there in the heart of Silicon Valley, where you have Apple's there, Google's there, Facebook is there. A lot of big companies are there in the Silicon Valley. They don't want to have it spread out even more. So they can't have contact on any level because Santa Clara County is the home of the Levi Stadium. Remember, they used to be up in San Francisco County at Pac-Bell Park or it was Candlestick Park. They named it to different names also, but they've torn that down since they've moved down to Santa Clara. But when you think about what Santa Clara's done, the Levi Stadium issued an enhanced COVID-19 guidelines for professional, collegiate, and youth sports Saturday afternoon that effectively put a 3-week ban on any contact sport taking place in the county. That's football, basketball. Of course, we're past baseball season. But right now, you would be looking at a lot of teams getting ready for college basketball. Their programs as far south as Fresno State, they had to cancel some of their games coming up for the Bulldogs, not only for football, but for basketball as well. San Jose State, same thing. Stanford, same thing. Santa Clara, it's affecting everybody, and I wonder how much longer the football team can keep doing their thing. The ban ordered regulated guidelines, including a 14-day quarantine for anyone traveling to the county from more than 150 miles away. And that's to begin Monday night. So that's happening as we are going to be into the evening. I believe it starts at midnight. So that's going to affect a lot of people in the Santa Clara area and also the Silicon Valley. There's several million people that live in the county of Santa Clara. San Jose is the largest city in Northern California with over 1 million in the population. So that's going to affect them. And I know a lot of people are wondering, how do they get past COVID-19 and keep playing football? But there's a lot of things that are much more important than who's going to play a football game. And so the San Francisco 49ers are going to play their next 2 home games in Arizona. And that's after Santa Clara County banned the sport. The NFL didn't ban them, Santa Clara did it. So as of today about noontime, the 49ers said that they will play their next 2 home games at the Arizona Cardinals home field after Santa Clara County, where Levi Stadium is located, enhanced its COVID-19 guidelines for professional, collegiate, youth sports over the weekend. The team's Monday Night Football matchup next week against division-leading Buffalo Bills out of the AFC East, it was set for December 13, and then they have a game set for the Washington football team that's going to be played at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, and the Cardinals set to play this Sunday at home and the following weekend on the road. Now think about this, what it does. We talked about football being in a bubble. This might be a preview of what the NFL is going to have to do if we continue with the playoffs. The 49ers they came into an agreement with the NFL and the Arizona Cardinals, which allows the 49ers to host week 13 and 14 at home against the Buffalo Bills. Now, people might say, why not play it in Los Angeles at new SoFi Stadium, where you have the Chargers and also you have the Rams that split time at that stadium, so there may not be enough room for another team to come in. But it's not much more than a couple, like an hour and a half flight, or maybe 2, down into Arizona, and they've been kind enough to allow the 49ers to come in there and play at their facility. So everybody has to do their part getting ready for COVID-19. No word yet on the fate of the 49ers schedule for Week 17 home game against the division rival Seattle Seahawks, and San Francisco is coming off a Week 12 road win at the NFC West rival Los Angeles Rams. So maybe the Rams said, no, you can't stay here. It's all fair 11 war. We know how that happens. Coincidentally, when you think about that, the 49ers and Cardinals game set for December 26th after Christmas, it will air exclusively on Amazon Prime Video and Twitch. We'll cover it with Big C Sports, of course, but the NFL shuffle schedules again. It moves the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers game to now is going to be Wednesday. I believe it's going to be a 3:40 p.m. kickoff as more COVID cases have sprung up. So I hope that everybody can figure out how to stay healthy through this issues that we're having with COVID-19. I know some people want to believe that it's not real. I know even the president was seen having a conference and he was just still not wearing a mask. But I think a lot of people got to realize that they got to put their mask on and not worry about what's happening with everybody else who doesn't want to believe in it. So I know that everybody's going to do whatever they can to keep their family safe. And, I mean, for me, it's important. We had also, before I get into some NFL breakdown, we had some momentum happening for gender equity college football. Vanderbilt's Sarah Fuller and the Buffalo's Jarrett Patterson lead history in making record-breaking rivalry weekend. Lucky for college football fans, we're treated to Sarah Fuller, the first woman to play in a Power 5 football game, suiting up for Vanderbilt University. In her second half kickoff proved that only action was a squib kick she placed perfectly according to head coach Derek Mason. Fuller now leads the country in fewest kickoff return yards allowed, a minimum of 1 attempt. Patterson ties major college record with 8 touchdown rushes for over 400 yards. Jarrett Patterson rushed for 8 touchdowns and 409 yards in the Buffalo's 70-41 win against Kent State. Don't they know it's the holidays and they should have been more kind? But when it comes to being kind, it's all fair in love and war. You better believe that some of those guys, they realize that women can do the same thing. They just have to have the same opportunity. So that's what I love bringing to the world of sports. We're seeing a lot of where women and men are having the opportunity to just simply compete. And if you can compete for it, you get a chance to show that you can play. I know whether it's tennis, whether it's basketball, sometimes baseball, track and field especially, there are women who can be just as competitive as men, but they have to be given the chance. And I love seeing that more and more women are being given the chance. It may not seem like a big thing, but when you realize how many times that women have had to just fight for opportunities, for everything that they've gotten in life, they have to oftentimes fight for it because there is so much pushback. And I really appreciate the fact that women are getting a chance to do it at the highest level and college football opened it up too for a lot of people. I want to get into Big C's thoughts on what happened and some NFL football games coming up over the weekend, and everybody has their own thoughts, even going back over the Thanksgiving Day weekend. I hope that everybody can stay healthy through all of it. I know it's not always easy when you're full of food and your belly's no longer hungry and you're trying not to fall asleep, Big C, that sometimes people fall asleep watching the football game. But I know as much as I love the game, a lot of people love the game, and they're going to do whatever they can to watch more football. And my heart just, I think about the people affected in Santa Clara County that really wanted to play games, but they're not being allowed to because sometimes life is a lot more important than playing the game, if you believe that. But the NFL is going to try to get all their games in anyway. I want to start off with the East Coast. There's some games that were really big, Big C. The Buffalo Bills 27, the Chargers 17. It was Anthony Lynn is ultimately fired as the head coach of the Chargers. He can put out a book on how to mismanage the clock. The NFL announced the game, constantly berated Lynn for failing to manage the clock correctly. That's what a lot of white announcers do to black coaches. They want to see it more whitewashed like Donald Trump does. That's my opinion. Anthony Lynn has been in all their games. It was Justin Herbert that threw a pick, and they had a chance to come even with the Buffalo Bills on the road. But at one point, they were down 24-6. The Chargers made a comeback. But it wasn't Coach Lynn that threw the interception. That was Justin Herbert. But sometimes, they're always going to blame the easiest person to blame, and sometimes that happens to be the head coach. You look at the New York Giants, 19-17 over the Cincinnati Bengals. The Giants had a chance to move into first place in the NFC East with a win over the Bengals. They were given a pair of gifts as Redskins win. Not the Redskins. I want to call them the Red Tails, Big C. But the Washington football team were able to, do their thing. But the Giants got to win. The Giants got to win 19-17 over the Bengals without Joe Burrow. Meanwhile, the Bengals were out to Joe Burrow, so it was an easier win for the Giants. But hey, if you get a win, you take the win, and there's nothing wrong with that. You had Jones with 16 of 27, 213 yards, along with 6 scrambles for 19 yards also. But you got to look at who they were playing against Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's having struggles, especially without having their record-setting quarterback. Speaking of backups, Brandon Allen struggled in his first start for Joe Burrow. He was 17 of 29, 136 yards, and 1 garbage time touchdown, and an interception forced into tight coverage. Despite poor numbers, most of Allen's stats came on a late drive, and the Giants were already up 19-10. But you just got to tip your hat to the New York Football Giants. They could have easily thrown in the season, but they're trying to get that NFC East spot, and we'll see what happens with them and Washington. Tennessee Titans in the beatdown in the AFC South. The Tennessee Titans 45, Indianapolis Colts 26. When you think about how important this game was, it puts Tennessee in first place. And the main thing that I love about what you look at Derrick Henry. He put up 178 yards on 27 carries, Big C, and they were kind of slowing down with him in the second half of that game. But 178 yards on 27 carries, sometimes that takes 2 games to get that kind of performance. And you also look at the final result, 45-26. It was not indicative of how lopsided that game was. Tennessee, I'm telling you, coming into the playoffs, that's a team you got to pay attention to. Henry nearly had 4 touchdowns, but think about his great quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, on a read option run at the goal line. Tannehill did well as a passer. He was 13 of 22, 221 yards and a score. And Tannehill didn't have to throw very much in the second half. Otherwise, he could have eclipsed 300 yards. But when you have a big running back like Henry, you turn around, you hand Henry the ball, and you let Henry win the game for you. T.Y. Hilton played well, too. If there's a silver lining for the Colts, it's that the number 1 receiver actually was productive. And, you always got to look at what happened to their defense. They could not stop Henry. And when you cannot stop a guy like Henry that's running like a locomotive, it's going to make it difficult. You look at Rivers. He was 24-42, 295 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Indianapolis Colts. The Titans dropped a potential pick 6 just prior to halftime. Jonathan Taylor also sidelined and then led the team to 10 carries, but generate only 29 rushing yards. You just look at what Tennessee does. Them good old boys, once they got beaten down by the Steelers and they missed an overtime kick, they've been solid. Really love the way Tennessee's playing. I want to take it to another game. Talk about missing. When you miss a kick, Big C, sometimes you don't have a chance to win the game. It was right there for the Carolina Panthers. one of the most bizarre turn of events you'll ever see in a football game. The Panthers scored a touchdown at the 7. I think it was at 7 at the end of the second quarter. And the next time the offense touched the ball, Carolina was leading 21-10. This is what happens when the opponent is guilty of 2 consecutive turnovers in the touchdowns. The Vikings were up 10-7, following a field goal to close out the opening half. And then think about this. Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook were guilty of coughing up the ball on 2 plays. Both turnovers returned by rookie Jeremy Chinn. The 2 turnovers put the Vikings in a huge hole, and it did not help them when they saw that the cornerback was thwarted with another giveaway and muffed by a punt by Chad Beebe. This gave the Panthers possession in the red zone with 2 minutes remaining, up 24-22. However, the Panthers, they mustered only a field goal, which was still granted the Vikings a chance with a 27-21 deficit. Kirk Cousins put together a great drive capped off by a touchdown with Beebe, who redeemed himself. The Panthers had one more chance. Just one shining moment, Big C. Teddy Bridgewater had a bomb to Curtis Samuel, moved the Panthers into field goal range, and then Joey Slye had a chance for the win. 6 seconds remaining, but he hooked it. He hooked it for 54 yards to allow the Vikings to get a win, and then the Viking horns were going crazy. It would have been a great victory for Carolina, especially on the road, but you can't trust those Vikings. They played well enough to win. I do want to mention that Kirk Cousins, he finished with 34 of 45, 307 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was on fire in the fourth quarter, completing 11 consecutive passes. Justin Jefferson came up big in the wake of Thielen's absence, but was not a surprise given how dominant he had been as a rookie. Jefferson caught 7 passes, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns, trailing only Johnson with 7 for 74 on the stat sheet. But you gotta take your hat off. A lot of these quarterbacks, they go on the fire, and when they lose, but when they come back and win, then you gotta give them some props. Also, you think Beebe had 7 catches, 68 yards, 1 touchdown to make up for his muff punt. Kyle Rudolph, 7 catches, 68 yards, also played well for the Minnesota Vikings. That's a team they're kind of hit and miss, but you gotta give it to them. You think about they should have run the ball more. I thought they got the game won because Carolina blew it, but you had Cook 18 carries, 61 yards. He also caught 4 passes for 21 yards. They gotta win because Carolina missed a kick, not because they were actually outplayed. Bridgewater eventually improved to finish 19 of 36. He had 267 yards, 1 touchdown and a pick, but got hurt on his final throw of the game. It's unclear how severe the injury is. Mike Davis made Bridgewater's play action opportunities possible as he and the other Carolina backs had some nice runs early in the contest. Davis finished with 55 yards on 15 carries, but Minnesota kept clamping down on the rush in the second half. You gotta like a team that fights and wins, but you hate a team that misses a field goal, especially on the road, that could have given Carolina a win. Man, talk about the pause. They're pausing in New Orleans, but they're pausing more in New England. The Patriots get a last-second kick, just like Carolina missed their last-second kick. You got to look at what the Patriots did. They get a last-second field goal, and they win the game over the Arizona Cardinals that were actually favored to win the game. So you tip your hat to Cam Newton, Bill Belichick, and them good old boys from New England, Beantown. Bill Belichick, a long history of defeating rookie quarterbacks, especially at home. Kyler Murray in his second season, but had not seen Belichick's scheme prior to this contest. It was no surprise that Murray struggled a little bit this week, especially considering that he entered the game with an injured shoulder, a little bit of a banged-up shoulder, but we're not making any excuses. I mean, you can't not make excuses against Belichick. If you're healthy enough to play, you're healthy enough not to need excuses. But Murray finished 23 of 34. He only had 170 yards and an interception. Murray missed out on a touchdown when Christian Kirk dropped the ball in the end zone, so they could have won. But this was a poor showing for him. Luckily for Murray, he still has to battle Bill Belichick only once every 4 years. He's a quarterback coach. He's a guru that can solve what's going on with a lot of quarterbacks. But Murray did have that injured shoulder. Maybe if he's healthy, then I think maybe they win that game. Murray wasn't the only Cardinals who struggled. DeAndre Hopkins, one of the top 3 receivers in the NFL, in my opinion. He usually is like a lightning bolt. You can always count on him to light up the place. Hopkins had a poor showing against Belichick throughout his history. 5 catches, 55 yards. That's good for a running back, but it's not good for one of the best receivers in the league. You think about the Cardinals in receiving, finished ahead of Andy Isabella, 4 catches, 33 yards, who saw more action because Larry Fitzgerald had a minor illness, and then Kirk was 3 catches for 19 yards. Anytime you think about Arizona going on the road, playing an early game against Bill Belichick, the odds are not in your favor. But I do say that helped Arizona somewhat. Arizona's touchdown production came from Kenyon Drake. He had 78 yards and 2 scores on 22 carries. That's good carries and good yardage for any running back in any league, Big C. But Drake had a chance at a third down, but was stuffed at the goal line on fourth down, the final play of the opening half, similar to what Cam Newton happened up in Seattle when they were playing earlier in the year. But that's Bill Belichick doing his thing, even though a lot of players held out because of COVID. This was a very deflating play as the Cardinals failed to score on a drive that lasted the final 7 minutes of the second quarter, and the possession featured Kirk's touchdown drop and another potential score. It's just amazing how if you go on the road and you don't hold on to the ball and you lose a turnover battle against Belichick's defense, you're probably not going to win. New England's touchdown came from a running back as well. Damian Harris led the team 47 yards on 14 carries. James White's 5 carries, 18 yards, and one who scored twice. Surprisingly, White caught only one pass. Now, the guy I like to watch, just because of his stature and his leadership in the history of being a former NFL MVP, Cam Newton, despite his heroic run on the final drive, he had an ugly game. You can just say that. He completed just half of his passes, 19 of 18, 84 yards, and 2 interceptions, though he ran for 46. He ran for 46 yards on 9 carries. So that's good performance. If he's not doing it with his arms, he'll do it with his legs. And then one pick occurred early when his arm was hit upon releasing and setting up Drake's first touchdown. Newton's second pick, which should have been negated by an illegal contact, also led to a scoring opportunity. But, you know, the officials are not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But when you have turnovers, you're probably not going to win. Thanks to Newton's passing struggles, only 2 Patriots caught passes besides White. That was Jacoby Myers, 5 for 52, and Damian Byrd, 3 for 33. But a win is a win, and they'll take it. And nobody's going to take a win away when you get it on the road. So road woes for the Arizona Cardinals had their tough time trying to hang in there with New England. They had every chance to win, but New England gets it done with a last-second field goal. The Miami Dolphins, talk about a team that's swimming. They're swimming up the coast of the Atlantic Ocean into New York, Big C, or actually the Meadowlarks in New Jersey. The Dolphins come away with a 20-3 win. Adam Gase had a plan. He was going to start Sam Darnold for the first time in weeks. Also calling plays this game after relinquishing the duties early in the season. Of course, more Gates and more Darnold means more losses for the Jets, which is all part of the plan to obtain Trevor Lawrence, as seen in the 2021 NFL draft coming up. We'll see if they actually get that good old boy from Clemson. He might even stay another year at Clemson. You never know. They might be paying him a lot of paperbacks to not play for the Jets. Paperbacks can go a long way, Big C, if that makes sense to you. It's all fair in love and war. You think about Darnold. Quarterback Gase's play calling were probably pretty awful. Darnold committed 2 interceptions, with one being in a 3rd and long when he threw it very late across his body. Darnold went 6 for 27, 192 yards. Otherwise, he looked pretty good at it. But, he's just on a bad team, and I don't know if he's going to even work out there in the New York Jets. A bad team, and they put him in early in his career, didn't give him a chance to sit on the sideline and learn like Aaron Rodgers did under Brett Favre, or even after Alex Smith was on the field for the Chiefs doing his thing, and Patrick Mahomes learned a lot. It's all fair in love and war. But a win is a win. Ryan Fitzpatrick played well while starting in favor of Miami's young quarterback, Big Tua Tagovailoa. Patrick moved the chains well, going 24 of 39, 257 yards, and 2 touchdowns for the Dolphins. He would have led the Dolphins to more points, but they made some sloppy mistakes, and there were some unforced penalties that ruined an early drive. But when you think about Matt Breida and Patrick Laird, lost fumbles in the second half. Laird's fumbles occurred in field goal range, ruining another potential scoring drive. But this is what I like, and sometimes don't like. You got a guy that he can have a bad game and turn around and have a good play. Fitzpatrick under center, both Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki became viable fantasy option players. Everybody can figure out what it is when you're playing option or their fantasy games. But I like Fitzpatrick. He spreads the ball around. He's going to have every now and then an interception. Gesicki, meanwhile, caught 2 balls for 35 yards and a touchdown. No other Dolphin player had more than 20 receiving yards. But they went into New York. They got a win against a division rival. And when you get the win, that's all that matters. I want to just tip my hat to Frank old man Gore. I don't know if he's Moses or if he's Frank, because that good old boy must be 99 years old, Big C. It's all fair in love and war, but he picked up 74 yards on 18 carries. This good old boy came out of the University of Miami back in 1900. That's how old he is, but he's still doing his thing. 74 yards on 18 carries, and one would think the Jets would try to get a younger running back, but when you think about it, Gore doing all of his carries and he stays healthy, you know he's not going to make mistakes. I mean, it's all fair in love and war. You can be that old in the league for that many years as a running back. You just tip your hat to him. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about some NFL football. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps, and I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. I want to take you to the game that was down in Jacksonville. They were getting buck wild in Jacksonville, Big C. The Cleveland Browns with a 27-25 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this is sponsored by, I want to just thank Comcast Spotlight presenting Big C Sports to the universe. When Big C Sports with Comcast, just say play Big C Sports podcast, and like God said, let there be light. You'll hear the lightning bolt. You'll hear from our sponsors. You'll hear welcome to the show, and I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. It's all fair and love and war. The Browns ended this game as touchdown road savers, but had trouble putting away the Jaguars due to their own incompetence. They made a number of mistakes, some including Baker television commercial Mayfield, Big C, who missed a number of easy passes. He thought he was reading scripts for his TV commercials, but he's actually should have been studying the playbook more. But he's making more money in TV than he's making playing football, so why study the playbook is all fair in love and war. Mayfield had a wide open Rashard Higgins for a touchdown, but whiffed it in its direction because he threw off his back foot for no reason. Mayfield later missed Kareem Hunt in the flat for what would have been a big gain as well in the fourth quarter. But think about it, he was reading his TV commercials because it pays him more than the Cleveland Browns are paying him. Mayfield's target also made some blunders. Harrison Bryant lost a fumble to give the Jaguars possession in Cleveland territory, but I don't want to beat up on Mayfield. They got the win. He finished 19-29, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns. The stat line looks good. Mayfield played well at times, but he missed some very easy throws that could have cost him in a tougher matchup, like, say, the Pittsburgh Steelers. This makes sense to him. I know he's making money in commercials. Why would he stop? They keep paying him. Jarvis Landry had a monstrous performance. It wasn't a surprise given Jacksonville's injuries at cornerback. Landry caught 8 passes, 143 yards and a touchdown. He got open pretty easily, Big C, against a team missing his top 3 corners. But you got to think about it, too. Excluding Landry, only 2 Cleveland players logged in more than 15 receiving yards. That's Nick Chubb, 3 catches, 32 yards. And Darrell Hodge, 3 for 31. Austin Hooper caught 2 passes, only had 13 yards. It's just a matter of getting the running game going. Speaking of Chubb, he was expected to have a big performance, and he did his thing. He had a big performance, was able to live up to it. He rumbled for 144 yards like a lightning bolt coming out of the backfield, and a touchdown on 19 carries. Now I'm gonna pause. 144 yards, 19 carries. What if they gave him the ball 25 times? They would have had more than a 1-point victory. I think if Cleveland wants to go anywhere near the playoffs, they got to realize it's not the guy making TV commercials that's going to get you there. It's going to be Chubb in the backfield. 19 carries, 144 yards was doing his thing. It's all fair and love and war, but you got to give the man the ball, and that's my opinion. You think about James Robinson put together a nice rushing performance, 128 yards and 22 attempts. He had 22 carries. Also had a big part of the passing attack, caught 5 passes, 31 receiving yards. You think about Glennon did a fine job managing the game as well. He went 20 of 35, 235 yards and 2 touchdowns, although he missed Keenan Cole for what would have been a deep touchdown. Glennon proved that he's capable as an NFL backup, but just like a lot of other players, they're kind of hit and miss. It's amazing Colin Kaepernick can't even get a phone call when he's a lot better than so many quarterbacks that are playing. That's my opinion. And you know, opinions are like they're free. So it's all fair in love and war. My goodness. Congratulations for the win if you're Cleveland. My goodness, John Gruden $100 million. You like that? You like that? Oh, that would be Kirk Cousins. But do you really like that when you're Mike Davis? The Falcons 43. The Raiders 6. The Raiders just had a close game coming off their loss to Kansas City. But they traveled to Atlanta. And it's tough when West Coast teams go to Atlanta. They make the flight 3,000 miles away. And they got to play in beautiful Mercedes-Benz Stadium. People can talk all they want about the Atlanta Falcons. But since they've changed head coaching, they're 4-2 in their last 6 games. They really could be 5-1 had Matt Ryan taken a knee instead of giving the ball to Gurley, and Gurley went into the end zone in their recent loss. But think about this. Derek Carr had a bad game. I mean, if you just think about it, that was just a bad game. He's a lot better than that. They were playoffs. They didn't have Richie Incognito, which is the guy that holds things down on the offensive line. So I'm not going to blame Derek Carr for that. But Las Vegas hosts for the playoffs were dealt a serious blow, like a lightning bolt, Big C. Lightning strikes twice. Think about it, 43-6. The Falcons were 4-7. But when Raheem Morris took over, they're really as good as 5-1 in my opinion. The Raiders were flat out of the gate. Derek Carr is a turnover machine from start to finish. The Raiders were horribly sloppy. This is John Gruden, $100 million. 2 car fumbles, drive-killing penalties, infractions that led to negating Falcons turnovers, special teams play that turned a missed field goal into an Atlanta touchdown. The Raiders fall short of the playoffs in the crowded AFC West race. This loss will be one of the toughest losses for them if they're watching the playoffs. They had everything in the palm of their hand before they ran into Kansas City and also the Atlanta Falcons. I'm telling you, this team, Raheem Morris, and they don't like to give a lot of black men chances in the NFL. You saw how the TV commentators were trying to get the coach fired for the Los Angeles Chargers. You know, it's not him out there calling plays. It's a player's game. But coaches matter too. Raheem Morris, think about it. He should receive the head coaching consideration. You don't need consideration. Arthur Blank hired the man. If you can't see your team is really 5-1 under him after letting go of Dan Quinn, it's amazing. Todd Gurley didn't have the chance to play. They didn't have Julio Jones. But this man gave a speech to his team, and they're not playing like the birds that you put into a skillet, Big C. They're playing like the birds of prey in the Alfred Hitchcock movie, Big C, where they came in and just killed everybody. All fair in level war. That scene was up in Bodega Bay. But I like the way the Falcons have been playing. Atlanta got a good drive going. Isaiah Johnson deflected a pass. Jonathan Abram caught the tip ball and jumped to the Raiders. Hunter Renfrow, 7 for 73, had an excellent run after the catch for 16 yards on a 4th and 3. Carr laid a deep ball for Henry Ruggs, who was 3 for 56 for a 36-yard completion inside the 5-yard line. 2 Raider penalties moved the ball back, and they settled for a field goal. How about that? The Raiders in a field goal because of penalties. John Gruden, he really knows how to coach. Raheem Morris learned under John Gruden, so they say. But Raheem Morris taught John Gruden how to coach a football game. That's my opinion. No knocking John Gruden, but if you look at what he's done without Tony Dungy, he's not even a 500 coach. And they say that Raheem Morris learned from him. No, Raheem Morris just didn't get all the opportunities. It's all fair and love and war. In the third quarter, Derek Carr, which I really like, just had a bad game. Remember, no Richie Incognito. Got a partial block of a Falcons punt that set up the Vegas on the Atlanta's 36-yard line, but Carr continued to struggle, tossing a terrible pass off the mark. Deion Jones picked it off and ran 64 yards to the house, Big C. Another score for the Falcons. It's amazing how, if you think about Trayvon Mullen dropping an interception in the end zone, on the next play, Matt Ryan found Braden Powell for a score and expanded the lead to 30-6. It's an ugly game that got even worse when the star running back Josh Jacobs fumbled the ball away and was injured on the play to give the Falcons another field goal. Carr suffered another strip sack, and then Ito Smith added an 8-yard touchdown run. Ryan was 22 of 39, only 185 yards, with 2 touchdowns and an interception. Todd Gurley was inactive. Ito Smith led the Falcons 65 yards on 12 carries, not bad. Julio Jones was also out. Ridley led the Falcons 6 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown, but Ridley suffered an injury in the second half. Carr was 22 of 34, 215 yards and an interception. Jacobs ran 27 yards on 7 carries on a fumble, and then Waller held 23 yards on 4 receptions. Arthur Blank, give Raheem Morris the head coaching job for the Atlanta Falcons. When you have a coach and the players are playing for him, you don't need to look around. He doesn't need the Rooney Rule. They're really 5-1 under his belt, even though Todd Gurley should never have to have that ball when Ryan should have just taken a knee and they ran it in for a score and gave more time on the clock. We all know that story. You got to know when you got a good team and a good coach, and Morris should be the head coach, in my opinion, of the Atlanta Falcons. Think about this. Big C, you called it the 49ers on the road beating the Rams. I think they beat the Rams 4 in a row. 23-20 on a field goal. It's amazing when you have a field goal kicker that can kick it between the uprights, and the 49ers get the win on the road at beautiful SoFi Stadium. I can't get the Ram team right, though. Whenever you think about Jared Goff, he completes every pass, and when you pick him to cover, you think about this, he doesn't have a good game. I know he's in his mid-20s, but his retirement day can't come soon enough for the Rams fans. But I think that's kind of harsh. But I think it's just a matter of who you're playing against, and the Shanahan knows how to coach against the Rams. The Rams are a tough divisional wild card race, so losing to the 49ers squad that is now 5-7, it's not a good thing. It's a tough pill to swallow. Aaron Donald was awesome. That good old boy can play some football, and it's amazing how great he plays. And the Rams lost that game because of a field goal, and they just couldn't move the ball on offense. Jared Goff blew the game with 3 turnovers. Can't have 3 turnovers. The Rams look good enough to make the postseason this year, but probably will get dropped before the Super Bowl because Goff he wilts under pressure. It's just a fact. I like him. I like the way he plays at times. Other times you don't. Think about the 49ers. They didn't have Bosa. They didn't have a lot of the line players that have been banged up over the year. It's been a tough year. Sherman came back in the saddle, so he was doing his thing on defense. The 49ers gave the ball back quickly when Donald stepped. He batted a pass in the air, and Jordan Fuller picked it off to kill the drive. A completion with golf to Robert Woods set up a 48-yard field goal to give the Rams the first points of the game. The 49ers responded with 2 passes to Deebo Samuel, 59 yards, set up a short touchdown run. Raheem Mostert. In the ensuing possession, Goff had a bad overthrown float to Richard Sherman for an interception. You mad, bro? Remember he told that to Tom Brady up at Quest Field back in the day, but that was against the Patriots. But, people that say, oh, Richard Sherman's too slow and he can't cover. No, he has a nose for the ball. That's why he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. All fair in love and war. Kerry Hayter recovered the loose ball for the 49ers, protecting a 7-3 halftime lead. I just like the way the 49ers fight. Nick Mullins, he used Samuel to set up another field goal. Cooper Kupp was 2 for 41, got the Rams moving with a short reception. He broke down field for a gain of 33 yards and set up a field goal. But I like the way the 49ers, they played the game to win. They didn't go in there with all their injuries and figure out how they were going to lose another game. They did it on the road against an NFC West rival, a game they had to win, and they did it. Jalen Ramsey, think about it, jumping off sides, set up Robbie Gould to hit a 42-yard field goal. Jalen Ramsey is good as they come in the league, but he jumped off sides, maybe a little bit too eager, but he normally makes up for it. But Robbie Gould kicked a 42-yard field goal. The 49ers, they struck gold, Big C, down in Los Angeles. Mullen that I like, I know a lot of people say, oh, no, Garoppolo's the starter. No, Garoppolo's not the starter. They got to get rid of Jimmy G. You got too much money. Eat the cap and get someone who's going to be with you long term. I'm not saying it's going to be Mullen, but look at Mullins on food stamps compared to what Jimmy Garoppolo's making, and he wins games. Mullins 24-35, 252 yards with 1 interception. Mostert ran 43 yards on 16 carries and a touchdown. Samuel had 11 receptions, 133 yards. Goff was 19-31, 198 yards and 2 interceptions. Goff is a $100 million quarterback. 19-31, 198 yards. Mullins on food stamps. 24-35, 252 yards in interception, and they won the game. You make the call. Why not make Mullen the starter for the Niners and draft somebody that you can build into it, since they won't give Colin Kaepernick a call, even though he's better than 90. He's better than, in my opinion, better than 60% of the quarterbacks starting in the NFL. Akers ran the ball 9 times, 84 yards and a touchdown. Woods led the Rams 80 receiving yards on 7 catches. And that's my opinion. Colin Kaepernick should be a starter in the NFL. He had 16 touchdowns to 4 interceptions when the 49ers benched him. Jared Goff threw 3 interceptions in one game. Google it. New Orleans Saints 31. Denver Broncos 3. I told you John Elway was warming up for this game. He was doing some push-ups, Big C, but he didn't get into the game. Not a real NFL game because the Broncos didn't have any of their 4 quarterbacks available to them thanks to ridiculous, unnecessary regulations. The Broncos were forced into starting someone named Kendall Hinton at quarterback, despite the fact that Hinton wasn't even good enough to hold a quarterback job at Wake Forest. Colin Kaepernick can't even get a call, took the Niners to the Super Bowl. It's all fair and love and war. Hinton did not have a prayer in the first NFL action. The result was predictable. Hinton finished with more than, think about this, finished with more interceptions, 2, than completions, 1. And Colin Kaepernick can't get a phone call because they say he's washed up. But they'll hire anybody instead of getting a man that would really help their team have a chance. It's my opinion. The Broncos produced only 6 first downs, compiled only 112 net offensive yards, most of which came in garbage time. Despite a nice effort from Denver's defense, the result was a lopsided. And Colin Kaepernick can't get a phone call because John Elway's happy with having that type of performance. And these guys are making millions of dollars. And Cap can't get a phone call. Hinton finished 1 of 9, 13 yards, and 2 interceptions. It was a sad state of affairs for the NFL, and Colin Kaepernick cannot get a phone call. Melvin Gordon, Philip Lindsay, they were bottled up in the backfield because the Saints had no respect for the pass. Gordon limited 31 yards on 12 carries. Lindsay had 9 carries for 20 yards, and Colin Kaepernick can't get a phone call because the Broncos are okay with losing. Think about this. The only Bronco who caught a pass was Noah Fant, who made a 13-yard reception. Jerry Jeudy just had 1 target. The Saints did not pass the ball that well either. As a 5,000-yard passer, Winston's on the bench. But Taysom Hill, he was 9 of 16, 78 yards, and an interception. And Colin Kaepernick can't get a phone call. 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Taysom Hill, because Drew Touchdown Brees is on the men, 11 broken ribs. They won't call Cap. But Taysom Hill, 9 of 16, 78 yards, and an interception. And Jameis Winston threw for 5,000 yards last year. He's a backup. Some things just don't make any sense. Speaking of 2 touchdown scorers, Latavius Murray found the end zone twice thanks to a great cut on one of his scores, and he trampled. The Broncos got a good win in the locker room. The pep talk was good, but how they get beat down like that, and they said they're okay with it, doesn't make any sense. You just want to congratulate the Saints. You want to crown them. But the Saints, if that's all they're getting from Taysom Hill and a 31-3 win, credit their defense. Because you're not going to go far in the playoffs when your quarterback's throwing for 78 yards. Just not going to happen. But they're going to figure out what they're going to do. Speaking of 2 touchdown scores, Latavius Murray found the end zone twice. He trampled the Broncos, gaining 124 yards, 19 carries. Alvin touchdown Kamara, 11 catches, 54 yards, did not do as well. He caught only 1 pass. But they got to figure this out because Colin Kaepernick can't get a phone call, but Taysom Hill, your starting quarterback's throwing for 78 yards. But hey, maybe you only want him to throw 78 yards. In the game of Las Vegas, the Chiefs were going to blow out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were going to blow them out, Big C. And they tried not to. Patrick Mahomes could have had 500 yards. This was all about the playmakers, the bookies down in Vegas. It was a 3-point. I think it was a 3-point. They were favored by 3. They won by 3. But they could have won by so much more than that. 10-14, in my opinion. Patrick, when you think about it, last year's defending Super Bowl champion MVP, Patrick Touchdown Mahomes was doing his thing. Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill were on pace for 800 yards each. Think about this. After the first quarter, that's how unstoppable they were to begin the game. Mahomes completed deep bomb after deep bomb to Hill, who embarrassed quarterback Carlton Davis so much that Davis, you think about this, he decided to close his eyes. He didn't want to see it anymore. But the Buccaneers somehow survived the onslaught. They were able to slow down the Chiefs in the second half. Mahomes generated 359 passing yards in the opening half. Big C. It's amazing. Had just 103 yards fall in the break because they were trying to take the foot off the gas for Las Vegas, in my opinion. Some of this was a result of being less aggressive. Like I said, Las Vegas, the point spread. They didn't want the Tampa Bay losing by 2 touchdowns. It would have made Brady look bad. And I believe that with all my heart, mind, body, and soul, and so do you. Mahomes forcing some punts and field goals also appeared to throw an interception, but it was bailed out by a hit to the helmet. I don't know why players hit quarterbacks in the helmets. They know they can't do that. The Buccaneers eventually threw a couple of touchdowns passes. Tom Brady found Mike Evans in the end zone. About 4 minutes remaining. They needed was one more stop, but they couldn't get it as the game ended like it began with the Mahomes pass to Hill to seal the deal. Think about this. Kansas City had a moment where they could just run out the clock and force Tampa to use their timeouts. What did they do? Mahomes threw it twice. I think they got 3 yards on one pass and 8 on the other and picked up the first down and ran out the clock. Think about this, guys. I'm not saying that Colin Kaepernick is as good as Patrick Mahomes. He's not. But he's as close to Patrick Mahomes as any quarterback in the league. Google his performances when he took the 49ers to the Super Bowl before he injured his shoulder. Patrick touchdown Mahomes was 37 of 49, 462 yards, and 3 touchdowns, Big C. Mahomes was great. Think about this. He had overturned an interception. They lost a fumble in the red zone in the second quarter. As crazy as that sounds, when you think about touchdown Mahomes, that's his name now, Patrick Touchdown Mahomes. As crazy as it sounds, Mahomes was a bit of a disappointment in his own thinking, only because he was in pace for a record-setting performance. But I'm telling you, this game was all about Las Vegas and not making Tom Brady look bad. They were going to score 45 points in this game. He completed, think about it, 359 yards by halftime. Could have gone for 700 yards, in my opinion, but it would have made Brady look too bad. So they had to protect the Great White Hope. You understand that. But they let the foot up the gas for Vegas, and the point spread was what it was, even though they could have won by 10 to 14 points or more. Hill had a chance to break records. He lost in 203 receiving yards in the first quarter. They could have had 800 yards, those two. But they didn't want to make Brady look bad, in my opinion. That would have been all the talk. So Hill ended up with only 269 yards, Big C. Only 269 yards and 3 touchdowns and 13 catches. But it's amazing to see how great Patrick Mahomes, he can backpedal and buy time against the blitz. Again, his QBR against the blitz is 98. That's crazy. The Chiefs didn't run the ball very well against Tampa's elite defense. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 37 yards and 11 carries. Le'Veon Bell, 5 carries, 22 yards, didn't do much. As the Buccaneers, Brady had a great fourth quarter, again, because Las Vegas let that game get closer. That's just my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. Brady had a decent game. He was 27 of 41, 345 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he had 2 Jameis Winston interceptions. Think about that. Brady missed out on some yardage early when he saw Evans drop a deep pass in the opening half. But speaking of Evans, he found the end zone twice, catching 3 balls for 50 yards. He finished behind Rob Gronkowski, 6 catches, 106 yards actually. Chris Godwin, 8 catches, 97 yards. But I'm telling you, there's something about this team that they have almost everything you need to get into the playoffs and make some noise. But they got to come together. Antonio Brown caught just 2 passes for 11 yards. I mean, telling you, there's something about watching Patrick touchdown Mahomes do his thing that makes you realize that no one can beat this team if he's on target, because they let their foot up the gas against Tampa, and that's why the game was as close as a 3-point game. It could have been a 10 to 14 points. And then I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. You have a game that everybody loves watching Green Bay when they play at Lambeau Field. It's just a great place to watch them play a football game. But what you think about this? Patrick Mahomes coming close to getting single-game passing records. The pressure was on Mitch Trubisky to perform well Sunday night in order to save the Bears from going under 500 for the first time all year. He never had a chance completing against Aaron Rodgers. However, he was responsible for 3 killer turnovers that gave the Packers some free points. You know, the point spread in Las Vegas. How does Rodgers have that many turnovers? It's all fair in love and war. I love football. But Trubisky was able to pad his stats with a couple of garbage time drives, starting when the Bears were down 41-10. They were down 41-10, and then the prop betting starts. Finished 26 of 46, 242 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pair of interceptions. Rodgers, conversely, unstoppable, torched the Packers. And think about this. 21-29, 211 yards, 4 touchdowns. He endured a couple of drops, so his final stats could have been better. 2 Rodgers touchdowns went to the leaders receiving. Robert Tonyan, 5 for 67. Devontae Adams, 6 for 60. Adams had a rare drop But the Packers won the game, and the Bears are just not who we thought they were. Or maybe the Bears are who we thought they are. The late latest Green Big C, and the Bears they melded in for the season, it seems like it. But I can only tell you the Green Bay Packers, they were expected to win that game, and they won it. Allen Robinson also found the end zone, doing so twice, catching 8 of his 13 targets, 74 yards. And Darnell Mad Eye Mooney, 3 for 34. Anthony Miller, 3 for 28, were not as successful. I'm telling you, there's something about this Packer team. They're a team that can go far in the playoffs, but they got to keep Aaron Rodgers healthy. So tonight's game, you have the Seahawks and the Eagles. Who knows what's going to happen in that? The Ravens and the Steelers are going to be moved off to, I think they put that on Wednesday now. So that's going to be on Wednesday. And the NFL is all up in the air. I know a lot of people are trying to figure out what are they going to do with COVID showing up and showing his ugly head. And everybody's hoping that we can get football underway. I mean, if we can get it going and get it finished, we know the 49ers, they're in the bubble before anybody else down in Arizona. So we'll see what's going to happen with the San Francisco 49ers being down in Arizona, sharing it with the Cardinals. And hopefully that will cut down on the outbreak for COVID. Tonight, will we see, in my opinion, Jalen Hurts with the Philadelphia Eagles? I think we should see Jalen Hurts with the Philadelphia Eagles. Carson Wentz, they'll bring him in and see what he can do, but I don't want to see Carson Wentz get hurt. He's probably more banged up than people realize. And then if you think about a quarterback, Russell Houdini Wilson, who always has a good game, especially on the road, I expect Seattle to go in there and win that game in Philadelphia. I know they had some rainy weather, and the game's already underway. I don't like to give out scores based on, people already recording things and wanting to watch it at home. And if you're watching the game at home, watch it with the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger. It's made with exotic meats, and it also goes great with the Budweiser Zero. It's made with 0% alcohol, and it goes great with the Big C Burger. Also, all around the universe, I want to thank Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports. All around the universe, just like God said, let there be light. And you can say to your cell phone, play Big C Sports Podcast. You'll see our apps pop up, and you'll have a lot of good opportunities to hear us and what we do with the world of sports. And I really do appreciate doing our show. Big C will be back in the saddle soon. Everybody's doing their travels for the holidays. It's all fair and level. As I mentioned, the Ravens will play the Steelers Wednesday. I think it's going to be a 3:40 kickoff, and they'll get that started. And I hope that they'll have the chance to get some football going as long as they can stay healthy. And I don't really know how that's going to be possible with a lot of people figuring out what they're going to do. So tonight's game, Jalen Hurts has been getting first-team reps at quarterback ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles Monday night game against the Seattle Seahawks. Sources show that Wentz is still expected to start, but there's a noticeable increase in Hurts snaps with the first team at quarterback, and it could be, in my opinion, give a man a chance. You're playing for your whole team. You're not just playing for yourself. The NFL fined the Saints $500,000. That's a lot of money to fine somebody, Big C, $500,000. They took away 7th-round draft pick because they did not wear masks during their post-game celebrations after beating Tampa Bay 38-3 in Week 9. The league sources said the Saints, who were not happy about the discipline, have appealed the league's decision, like Donald Trump appealing every decision that comes with him like a pesky mosquito. Just doesn't want to go away, but you can appeal anything. It is the land of the free, the home of the brave. The Saints believe other teams across the league also have celebrated victories without masks, but none has been hit hard the way the Saints have. And maybe they have a point. Lions offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell will be the team's interim head coach. Matt Patricia's record, 13-29-1 since taking over as the Lions head coach in 2018. Quinn had been the team's GM since 2016, and the Lions were 31-43-1 during his tenure. So the Detroit Lions let go of head coach Matt Patricia, general manager Bob Quinn on Saturday after 2 straight seasons under 500 and a 3rd season where the team was again under 500. When they had Caldwell had the best record for the Detroit Lions since the 1950s. It's the 1950s. You can Google it. But they let him go. They weren't happy with it. But sometimes people, they wish they had kept what they had. It's not all fair when you go out looking at somebody else's yard, if that makes sense to you. But I do wish everybody healthy. Stay healthy, stay blessed. God bless everybody for this beautiful Thanksgiving weekend that we had. And I know not everybody could enjoy it, but I'm really grateful for all the blessings that God has. And I hope that everybody can just stay as happy as possible. We don't know what's going to happen with sports. They can push teams around They can move games around, but nobody really knows how it's all going to come to a conclusion. People have to stay healthy. But I know there's a lot of money being made in the world of sports, and they're always going to put money first. Even though we might think they're going to put the players first, it doesn't always happen because there's too much money to lose, especially when the people having to risk their health are not the ones out there on the field. And I just hope everybody stays safe. Texas defensive back Caden Stearns opting out to begin NFL draft preparation. Vic Fangio says discipline still on the table for the Broncos QBs. The Baltimore Ravens Pittsburgh Steelers game postponed again to Wednesday. Houston Texans wide receiver Will Fuller suspended 6 games under PED policy. And it's all fair in love and war. Julian Edelman placed on reserve COVID-19 list. I mean, everybody has to just stay healthy. It's not always easy, but I know it's necessary. And I don't know what else to say to these team owners. The 49ers, Santa Clara County, they're doing their thing, but they're going to have to do it down in Arizona. I just hope that people can stay as healthy as possible because life is more important than just playing a game. Or maybe it's not. Hopefully, we'll all figure out how to get through all this together. There is light at the end of the tunnel. As I always say, God keep everybody healthy, wealthy, and wise. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. And he was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. And he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in this boy's universe? Well, Mike Tyson had another win, or was it a draw? Roy Jones Jr., 2 men in their 50s, they shouldn't be fighting in the ring. They should be fighting over who stepped on my lawn. It's all fair love and war. But you can enjoy everything if you have the right to enjoy it. As we always tell you, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. And always keep yourself healthy. Stay healthy, wealthy, and wise every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. You can follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.